Welcome back to another edition of the Women of Wrestling podcast here on ringbellsonline.com. I am, as always, your host, Irish Stu Allen, alongside my colleague in crime, Freaky Lee Burton.
Yes.
And we have a...
I lived up to the name there, didn't I?
We did. Well, you did, anyway. The question is, can the podcast withstand the levels of awesomeness that we're going to turn it up to with our guest this evening?
I really don't know, that's the thing.
It's doubtful. Batten down the hatches, everybody. We've got Nicole Matthews on the show.
Someone who we've been quite keen on getting on the show for a while. It's just that our schedules haven't really clashed in the right way.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, it's funny. We had her tag team partner Portia Perez on episode 2 to take us to episode 22 to get Nicole.
Episode 2 was, what was that? It's like September 2009, wasn't it?
Something like that, yeah.
It was a long time ago.
It was. But no, we're looking forward to that. That should be fun. We've got a couple of other quick news bites to mention before we get on with the interview. First one being that SHIMMER tickets went on sale this past weekend. Well, front row tickets specifically. And that is, if you want them, you're already too late.
You are shit out of luck. They went on sale at, what was it, 8 p.m. Central?
6 p.m. Central.
6 p.m. Central, I'm very sorry. And they were all sold out by 8:30 p.m.
Yeah, 2.5 hours, all front row tickets for both shows gone. And that's a lot quicker than the last set of tapings as far as I remember. So I think that's probably a lot coming off the great reviews that the last show's got, because at the minute, there's no one confirmed for the shows. There's no matches announced. It's simply the fact that Dave Prezak said, we're going to have a wrestling show on these dates. Would you like to come?
And the answer is yes.
The answer is an amazing and astounding yes. So, yeah, we will be there.
Yeah, the entire Ring Bells team's going to be there.
Everyone from Ring Bells will be there, and we hope to see you there as well. We'll have plenty to talk about between now and October 1st and 2nd, which is going to be the dates of the tapings. But yeah, look out for that. October's going to be a big month for women's wrestling as well, because the weekend after SHIMMER run, Femmes Fatales are going to run in Canada, in Montreal. And in the same weekend that Femmes Fatales run, we're going to have Eve versus Ice Ribbon here in the UK.
So, yeah, on both sides of the Atlantic, you're going to have great wrestling going on, all in the space of one weekend. So, for God's sake, go. Go to SHIMMER, go to Femmes Fatales, go to Eve versus Ice Ribbon. Just go. Check it out. See what you think.
Indeed. And speaking of things that you might want to check out, I want to make mention of something that's coming up very soon. Well, coming up in August, in fact, and that's another KNS WrestleFest. And KNS WrestleFest have been doing conventions for quite a while now. They've always got really good guests, and especially if you're a fan of old school wrestling, there's always a bunch of people turn up for these shows
and lots of them.
There's always a bunch of people turn up for these shows that you think, wow, where did they find him, or where did they find her, which is really, really good. And the next one that's coming up is one that, as listeners to the Women of Wrestling podcast, you might be particularly interested in. This is going to happen at the Ramada Philadelphia Airport on Saturday, August 27th, and it's going to be called A Hot Summer's Night. And so far, the theme is, it's a women's show.
There are 7 names announced as far as I can see. We have the main name, the standout name, is Wendy Richter.
Yes.
Who, just former WWF Women's Champion.
Former NWA Women's Champion, AWA
absolutely.
Women's Champion.
Absolutely, the probably the victim of the original WWF screw job as well. Hall of Famer.
Yes.
And hardly ever shows up to these things.
Yeah.
Because she's so off the radar all the time, so you never find her. So if you get the chance, go meet Wendy Richter.
Yeah, absolutely. Rockin' Robin's going to be there as well, former WWF World Women's Champion as well. Also coming up, we've got Terry Runnels.
Yeah, we've got the OVW Women's Champion, Lady Jojo. You might know her as Sojo Bolt from TNA. You've also got Deborah. You also got Cara Drew, although you probably know her better as Cherry.
Yeah, formerly
from a short time in WWE.
From the throwbacks, Juice and Domino.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Isis the Amazon's there as well, so you can have a picture stood next to her and just realise how much of a short arse you really are.
Not only that, but there's vendors there as well, and the main thing's going to be sponsored by highspots.com, but RF Video are going to have a table there as well, and they're going to have Fit Finlay.
So, yeah, he knows, yeah.
Technically not a woman, but somebody's
technically not a woman.
Someone who's got a lot of connections with women's wrestling, and if you know much about the WWE Divas scene over the last few years, Finlay was the guy that really came in when it was at its height, and what really took it to its height, worked with a lot of the girls at the time, and took a lot of care over it. And I think he's the last guy really that seemed to take an awful lot of care over the women's division.
Yeah, so it might be quite good if you get a chance to have a spare few minutes to talk to him about that. He might be open about it. I'm not speaking for him or anything, but he might be willing to have a chat with you about that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of legends, in fact, the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Amsterdam, New York, had its 2011 inductions this past weekend, and inducted from the women's wrestling world, Judy Grable.
A proper Hall of Fame.
A proper Hall of Fame, an actual bricks and mortar Hall of Fame as well, yeah. So Judy Grable's been inducted this year in a class that features a motley crew of wrestlers, including Dick the Bruiser and the Road Warriors, and a certain Vince McMahon. He's been inducted as a colleague of the Hall of Fame.
It's quite interesting that it's took until 2011 to be inducted into this Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, it's a different Hall of Fame. This is a very legitimate Hall of Fame, and you should see the list of people who are responsible for inducting here. This is not just someone on a whim going yes. This is a proper group of experts, former wrestlers, managers, commentators, and journalists that get together and decide who's going to get inducted in every year. And Judy Grable is going to be inducted into that Hall of Fame, where she has been this past weekend.
Yeah. She draws quite a distinguished list of women's wrestlers as well.
Yep, there's one inducted every year since the induction, or since the institution of the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Amsterdam. I'll just run through quickly. Mildred Burke back in 2002, Fabulous Moolah in 2003, Mae Young in 2004, Penny Banner in 2005, June Byers 2006, Cora Coombs in 2007, Betty Nicole 2008, Donna Christianello in 2009, and Kay Noble last year in 2010.
There's also a great video that you found on YouTube of Judy Grable when she was on a show. What was the show called again?
What's My Line?
What's My Line? I could never remember the name. Yeah, and
it's from 1959, in fact.
It's an amazing piece of footage. You have to go and watch it. Just go onto the website. You can't miss it. Just click into the article and it's right there for you.
Yeah, and it's not only that. It's only nice just to see Judy Grable there as well, but it's worth it for the comedy masterclass of Groucho Marx,
who just tears it apart, doesn't he?
He's wonderful. Yeah. So a quick salute to Judy Grable and the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. We were in New York a couple of years ago. We never got a chance to go up to Amsterdam, but I would love to actually one day go up to the Amsterdam, New York actual Hall of Fame and check out what they've got up there, because it is the only proper bricks and mortar Hall of Fame in pro wrestling. So, well done, Judy Grable. And bringing it back to current day wrestling, just quickly, a little bit of news as far as what's been going on in WWE and TNA in the last week or so.
It shouldn't take long.
It really shouldn't. WWE had their Over the Limit pay-per-view, and Brie Bella successfully defended the Divas title against Kelly Kelly.
A nothing match and a nothing show.
Karma didn't turn up as well, which is quite
That's
surprising.
why it was a nothing match and a nothing show.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's important about that division at the moment. It's the only thing that people care about. I was talking to a friend of mine who was at the Raw tapings in London, and he said that as soon as Eve's music hit, you could hear the collective clang of chairs being just snapping back into place and people walking out of the building. They were going to the toilets, they were going to the merchandise stands, and there's that perception that goes on for women's wrestling, and Michael Cole didn't do much to help change that.
No, he did not.
But karma sort of is. People are staying there and sitting in their seats thinking, when's she going to show up? When's she going to show up? When's she going to show up? And then she didn't show up on this show. It's Over the Limit, and everyone was like, you look like fools.
We've tricked you into watching a wrestling match.
How do you feel now? And it wasn't a bad match. It just wasn't fantastic either. It was just sort of there.
Yeah, I thought it was okay, and I think Brie's doing all right, and we've given Brie a little bit of credit of late for basically her and Nikki turning around an absolutely dead gimmick where they had no interest in them as babyfaces to actually becoming, you know, fairly
top heels,
a fairly fun act as a heel now. So yeah, good for them. They're going to have some competition coming up soon though, because according to the Observer, there's a couple of FCW divas about to debut fairly soon as well. One of them's one that I've been calling for a while, and that's AJ Lee. She's going to be debuting soon on SmackDown, is the plan. And the other one's really interesting because the other one that they're saying is going to be debuting soon is Maxine, also from NXT Season 3.
Which raises the question of the conspicuous by her absence Naomi Knight.
Yeah, Naomi was the person that everyone were just over the moon about, and everybody talked about Naomi was the shoe-in to win NXT. Remember Serena Deeb on the interview we had with her talked about how she thought she was by far the best diva on that season and should easily win it. And she's still not been called up. Bit of a surprise. I don't really know why.
Thing is, she does look spectacular, and I think in divas matches, which invariably don't go longer than 3 or 4 minutes, when you have something that you can do that is spectacular and get people up and interested very, very quickly, why would you not take advantage of that?
Very good question. Very good question indeed. And briefly, TNA.
Velvet Sky's involved in 3 separate feuds.
Yeah, because apparently TNA have rebranded themselves as Velvet Sky 24/7.
Yes, this is clearly what needs to happen. So she's involved in the Jarrett's Angle feud. She's involved in the Winter Angelina feud, and now ODB's come back and she's involved in another feud there.
Yeah.
I hope that none of these feuds lead to matches, otherwise we're going to be in trouble.
Anyway, let's move on to much better things, and let's bring up our guest. And we will join on you again after the little music interlude with none other than Nicole Matthews. And we are back now with our guest on episode 22, the current ECCW SuperGirls champion, and up until recently, SHIMMER tag team champion, the awesome Nicole Matthews. Nicole, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
You know, as I introduce you as the name of Nicole Matthews, it just occurs to me of an interesting way to start the conversation. We found out a little while ago, and it's not something we go looking for, but we found out a little while ago that your real name wasn't actually Nicole Matthews. This blew our minds.
It really did.
Because we couldn't...
I know, that was really bad, the Skype name, eh? Totally gave it away.
That does too, but no, we knew before that, but it blew our mind when we realised that your name was not Nicole Matthews, and I don't think it's anything we've actually ever asked anybody on the shows, but I need to ask now, just why Nikki Matthews is a wrestling name?
The last name Matthews just kind of stuck with me for some reason. I thought that was a really cool last name. Now looking back, it's like, well, every indie promotion has a Matthews in it, so it wasn't exactly unique. But I figured I liked the last name, and I kind of wanted a tomboy first name. Obviously, Nicole isn't a tomboy name, but Nikki at the time was. And I kind of wanted, like a Jamie or a Nikki or like a name that could be a boy name almost as my first name, because I'm a tomboy in real life, and, well, still am. That hasn't really changed.
Okay, that's an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah, it was weird. It was just, you by now, obviously, because we know of you as that, just the idea of you not being Nicole is quite amazing. As far as when you actually got into wrestling, I was interested to read that you were convinced to start training by your friend. How does one convince someone to start training to be a wrestler?
That was in an interview once, and it kind of got a little misconstrued. He didn't convince me to do it. It was someone, a friend I met at shows when I was going to ECCW shows as a fan, and he was the same age as me, Sid Silem, and he's still wrestling right now. And I saw him debut, and I'm like, oh, Sid debuted, that's pretty cool. And then a wrestler named Memphis, he was one who was like, well, why don't you start training? I'm like, that's right, why don't I start training? Like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to be a wrestler, I might as well start training now. So, I I wasn't convinced by Sid to do it. I was maybe a little inspired, but not convinced. That was a little journalism, what's it called? I don't know. They took my words and misconstrued it a little for a better story. License. But yeah, creative license, that's what I was looking for.
It does seem weird that you thought, I want to be a wrestler. Why don't I just train to be a wrestler as opposed to why don't I just go out and do it? Was it always a case of you always had it in your plans to do it, but it wasn't set in that specific time frame? But then someone just mentioned it to you, and you thought, yeah, why not?
Well, it was always in the back of my head, but like at the time, the local scene, it wasn't exactly female friendly. And like my older brother really was he's the one who brought me to shows originally. He wasn't really wanting me to be in wrestling because he'd heard all these horror stories about girls at the local scene. And I've really never had issues with it since I started. So I had a little resistance from my family, but like they got over it pretty quick when I started.
What sort of urban myths were being passed around then that you heard about?
It wasn't really urban myth. It was pretty true. It just times had changed a little when I had started training. The girls just weren't respected, and they were looked at as rats, and et cetera, et cetera. And to be honest, like, not all of them were rats, obviously, but some of them certainly did not convince the wrestlers any different. Like, they were rats. So that didn't help. But, like, there was a couple girls who weren't. They were really good. Like, Madison, she was a wrestler when I was watching. And she had some issues, and that's what Jeff had heard about. So, my brother, Jeff, sorry. And, so he didn't want that to happen to me. But by the time I started training, kind of the old school crew had started leaving, and it was just a lot better people in the locker room when I started than when Madison was around.
Fair enough. I mean, now you said that your brother Jeff had sort of taken you to shows, and he got you into wrestling back in the day. Is that right? Mm-hmm. I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's his fault I'm in wrestling.
Good to see you got blamed for where your career's taken you.
No, he gets credit at the same time, I suppose. But I can't remember not watching wrestling. It's one of those things. It's always been a part of my childhood. I always watched it growing up. I think there was only like a year where I didn't watch it because my dad like banned me from watching in '99 because like that was when like the girls were like taking off their tops or like it was a really bad attitude at the time, right?
In fairness, I almost stopped watching in '99.
It was pretty like looking back, I'm like, that's garbage. You thought that was entertaining, but yeah, my dad was like, no more. You're not allowed to watch. But I still kind of sneakily watch like Sunday Night Heat. Because I'm like, that's wrestling, that's okay. I just wanted to watch the wrestling. I didn't want to watch, like, Sable and Miss Kitty taking off their tops or whatever was going on at the time.
That must have annoyed you then, the fact that you want to become you want to be a credible, serious female wrestler, and you've got reverse evening gown matches with women's titles changing hands, and you've got Miss Kitty whipping her top off.
Yeah, that's always been kind of a struggle, watching mainstream female wrestling when it's at its low points. It's a little disappointing because it's like these girls aren't talented. They just have big tits and blonde hair or whatever, and they just fit a certain look. And that's the only reason why they're getting noticed. And I don't think, I understand looking a certain way is important in wrestling, but I don't think it should all be about that. And that's for males too, by the way. I think personality and wrestling ability and all that, and being entertaining should be important, but apparently it's not sometimes.
So who were your influences then when you watched? Who were the people that you thought, okay, that typifies what I want to do, or that's what I want to be?
The only female that I can think of was Mighty Molly, or whatever her name was at the time. I thought she was awesome, and looking back, I'm like, yeah, I was right. She's pretty awesome. She was fantastic. She was so underrated. She, whenever, it wasn't a coincidence that whenever you were in the ring with Molly, you had a good match. She made people become better wrestlers when she was in the ring with them, and she was definitely one of the reasons why that female division at that time was so good. Because, when you were in the ring with her, you'd have a solid match that the fans would take seriously. She was the only real female, like, huge influence on me, though, when I was younger. The Harts, Owen Hart and Bret Hart, like, they were huge influences. Canadian girl, kind of makes sense. Yeah, and Owen Hart, like, I kind of secretly was cheering for him during him and Bret's feud, because he was the younger brother, and I'm the youngest in my family, so I'm like, yeah, go get him.
That thing worked on so many levels.
I didn't want to say it out loud, though, because I didn't want, like, people to judge me for cheering for Owen Hart instead of Bret Hart. And when I got a little older, like Benoit, Jericho, I really liked them. Edge and Christian, like, I thought that I obviously have a Canadian bias,
yeah.
But they're all Canadians that I just named so far, except for Molly. And I really, when he first debuted in, like, during that Alliance thing, RVD, I thought he was pretty cool because he was really different than everyone.
RVD sort of sticks out compared to the other ones that you've mentioned.
No, I know.
The rest of us seem like wrestlers, and then you got RVD, who's a lot more sort of flashy.
You know what? I was debating not even saying him.
Oh, I'm glad you did.
It was going to stick out so bad. But he was just, I don't know, I really liked his personality. And I thought it was, you know, the laid-back stoner personality. It was just completely different than what anyone else was doing. And when people are, like, really unique, that really stands out to me.
I love it when people give answers like that. You know, I like asking those questions just in case someone ever says, "Yeah, my favorite wrestler was Bastion Booger." You know, it's always possible.
Dumpster Drosky, you know, he was pretty good back in the day. Really
His
influenced.
finisher was awesome. It was a tilt-whirl into a power slam. Great finisher.
That's true. I know. This is the first random name, the Goon. How about that? He is Canadian, obviously. Hockey gimmick.
Indeed.
The Goon.
Indeed. When you started, though, actually wrestling and you got in there, I think you got your initial training under Scotty Mack and Michelle Starr and those kind of guys, yeah?
And Aaron Adel. Yeah. Aaron Adel, Michelle Starr, and... Sorry, I'm just going to drink my coffee for a sec. Yeah, Aaron Adel, Michelle Starr. No, it was actually Starbucks. I'm cheating. There's a Starbucks closer to my house, so I just walked to it before this. Iced coffee. Their iced coffee is better. I'll have to say that. I like Tim Hortons regular coffee, but Starbucks has better iced coffee. Right. Sorry, Timmies.
Okay, no, your initial training.
Yeah. Michelle Starr, he was like the basics type of trainer. Like he really hammered in the basics. Scotty, you know, he's a little more about personality, and Aaron Adel was like the wrestling pretty well. Like Aaron Adel was my main trainer at the time. Like I consider him my main influence around that time.
I like that, having that group of three and each one sort of concentrates on a different sort of aspect of the performance, which is quite good. And you started with Veronika Vice as well, and I think she started just around the same time. Did you guys have your first class together?
Yeah, we started the exact same day, and we debuted the same weekend. Yeah, every step of the way, Veronica's been there with me. We didn't have our first match against each other. We both had our first matches against Rebecca Knox, which, by the way, awesome.
You were almost on the verge of just being this sort of Lance Storm and Chris Jericho of Canadian wrestling girls.
I know, we didn't have our debut match together, damn it. We could have been. Maybe our last match together will be, we'll outdo Storm and Jericho. We'll have our last match against each other.
Excellent.
Good.
I like that. As far as having somebody to start with and work with right at the beginning, I guess, did you guys motivate each other, and were there times where one of you thought, actually, I'm not sure about this, and the other guy had to reinstall that faith or anything like that?
No, we were both, obviously training's a little painful, but we were both just so determined to be good at it. Like, I know a lot of people always talk about, like, oh, it was real tough, and I was thinking about quitting the first or second day, but I never really had that, neither did Veronika. We both just really wanted to get in there, and we wanted more, and we wanted to train as much as possible. Like, we would go, like, because at the time, Starr was the beginner's trainer, and Idol was a little more of the advanced trainer. He was training the people who were 6 months ahead of me and Veronika in training at the time, but we'd still go to his classes. And we'd be like, hey, can we do this? And he's like, all right, fine. And we're like, okay, yay! We get to get beat up by a bunch of boys now. Woo! So we were both, it was really motivating to have her there. And it's funny, like, that we just have so much in common, and we come from the same city, and we both come from, like, relatively similar family situation. Like, it was crazy how we've never met before. And, like, best friends pretty much right away, and we're still best friends now.
Did you watch Veronika on Wipeout Canada?
Yeah, she had, like, that's so disappointing. It could have been better. They didn't show too much of her, unfortunately.
Yeah, I saw a bit
she
of
did
it.
get to be up the host a little.
That was nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and Veronika did Wipeout, and then actually a couple weeks later, another local wrestler here, Casey Spinelli, she was on Wipeout too, and she's doing World of Hurt with Lance. She was doing the World of Hurt with Lance Storm and Tenille, like what they did. That reality is like a tough enough knockoff, pretty well.
Yeah, no, we'll come back to that later on as well.
Sorry.
That's all right. No, that's cool. As far as training is concerned, we sort of found from doing all these interviews that, you know, there's never a right time for how long it takes somebody from starting training to having their first match. I think, you know, Sarah Del Rey said she trained for over a year before she had her first debut match.
And found it hard.
And found it hard going as well, whereas Mercedes Martinez was wrestling within a month, and you were of the Mercedes Martinez camp, and you were wrestling within a month, weren't you?
It was 2.5 months, I think, of training, and then we had our debut. And it wasn't it wasn't because we were ready, it was because Star really needed girls to wrestle Rebecca Knox.
Fair dues. Although in saying that, I imagine having matches against Rebecca Knox when you're starting is pretty damn good.
Oh yeah, like, I can't imagine how much of a train wreck those matches would have been if Rebecca Knox wasn't in them. Oh my goodness. Like, if we didn't have Rebecca Knox, like, taking our hand and leading us places in the ring, it would have been pretty bad, I think. Rebecca Knox, she's awesome. Like, such a ring general. Was awesome, I guess I should say. And, yeah, like, she if it wasn't for her, first few months of wrestling would have been pretty bad.
And, I mean, you say was awesome. She still is awesome. She's not wrestling anymore, but she still is awesome.
Well, she's an awesome human being. I love Rebecca Knox.
Absolutely. But, okay, I mean, as far as those early few months then, I mean, at that point, what were your aims when you started wrestling? Were you just, like, you know, wanting to do some stuff in your spare time in that area, or did you ever have, at that point, ambitions to go further?
This is going to sound real geeky, but when I was later in high school, before I started training, I got tapes of IWA Mid-South Girls Division.
Ah.
So I had tapes of Daisy Hayes and Lacey and Rain, and I think Del Rey was on a couple of them, and Mickey Knuckles, like those girls who started around that time, or Mischief, sorry.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I watched that, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be like those girls. They're so awesome. So when SHIMMER came about, like, I think it started a few months before I started training. And then, so I'm like, yeah, that's my goal. That's where all those girls are, SHIMMER. So SHIMMER was really my only goal when I started. So, got that.
Just in case anybody's interested in seeing Nicole Matthews' inspiration, then, there are 10 DVDs of IWA Mid-South available at highspots.com, so do check them out.
Yeah, there you go. Like those girls, I was like, oh, cool. So you can be a wrestler. You don't have to necessarily make it to WWE to have awesome matches. And like WWE was always kind of a goal in the back of my head, but it's never really been the only thing I want to go for. So, I've done okay from what I wanted in the beginning.
You did very well. I mean, within about about 7 months or so of you debuting, you were beating Nattie Neidhart for the SuperGirls Championship as well.
And Nattie's another one who's awesome. I'm sorry, ask your question.
I was just going to say, did you get to work much with Nattie around that time?
Yeah, we had a triple threat with her, me and Veronika, and then a couple months after that, I went to Calgary to wrestle her for a double shot in Calgary, then Edmonton. And I think Veronika did that a couple months later. Veronika was actually her last indie match before she went to SCW. Little known fact. And she was fantastic. Like, she was really nice, like way nicer than she has to be. You know, you don't expect someone who's that good or who's like poised to go to WWE at that time, to be so generous and so nice, and she would let us do anything we wanted, and like super encouraging in the ring. Like I remember, I in Calgary I was playing heel against her, and like she's like, okay, good job, now choke me, now pull my hair, and I'm like, okay, thanks. That really helps. So like she was always super encouraging, and I saw her a couple years ago in Calgary again. Like they had a vacation, and I was in Calgary for a show, and she was like super encouraging then too. And yeah, she's a really good human being, and it makes me really happy to see her on TV and succeeding. And same with Tyson Kidd, TJ. He is also a super nice guy, and it's awesome to see him on TV and succeeding too.
Alison Danger talked about how she just became a sort of simpering wreck around Nattie as well. It's like, put me in the sharpshooter, please. It'll be an honour.
Yeah, I marked out quite a bit. I try to hide it as much as possible, but I'm like, oh my god, she's from the Hart family.
She must get that a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure she does. Yeah.
But I bet it never gets old either.
I don't know. People are just sucking up for you because of your family. I might get a little old, but I try to keep the mark in me a little down when I was around her. I hope it worked.
Oh, I don't know. It's good that it's still there, though. You know, it's always, I guess it must be always nice to be able to have that sort of, that feeling of a fan still there as well, even though you're a wrestler as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple people, if I met them today, I'd still be a little fangirl about.
Name them.
Oh no.
Please name them.
I'm not gonna lie, Chris Jericho. I would be like, oh my god, you're Chris Jericho. If I met him, probably. I'd probably try to keep it down, but that'd be my inside voice.
Excellent. Speaking of ECCW, towards the start of your career, I guess this would have been probably maybe about a year or so in, you'd done a babyface turn, and you'd ended up being involved in a TLC match. Yeah. Now, I haven't seen this. I've only read about this. So, I mean, talk us through it. But the thing that I wanted to ask you about is apparently you did a balcony dive.
I did. Yes, I did.
How do people talk you into this?
Oh, no one talked me into it. I did it myself.
Oh, wow.
I did too.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. It was actually a few years into my career, I think. It was, when did we do it? A year and a half ago. That's when it was.
Okay.
And, it was my only babyface run ever, anywhere, which is probably for the best. I wasn't the best babyface. I just kicked people hard and hoped people would react positively. That was my face work. But I was teaming with it was really fun, the TLC match, because it was all pretty much my friends in it. And it was like me and my friend Kenny and my friend Suede, who I trained with, against three guys, Baroni, Nick Price, and Jamie Diaz. And like I'm really good friends with Baroni, Kenny, and Suede. So we had a fun time. And the year before, there was a TLC match, or maybe 2 years before. It's like an annual thing. Mm-hmm. And my boyfriend was in it, and he decided to do a Superman dive off the balcony. And I was on the balcony when he did it, and he didn't tell me it was happening. And I was just like watching from the balcony, and I was like, oh my god, that frickin' idiot! He almost killed himself. So then I was joking with him, well, I'm going to do a balcony dive in this TLC match. He's like, no, you're not. I'm like, wait. I am.
Before you go any further, you thought, oh my god, what an idiot, I'm going to do exactly the same thing.
Okay, he did it way more dangerous, though. He did like a somersault dive, and I was just doing a splash. And I had 5 guys, big guys there to catch me. And he had like 3. And
how tall is this balcony?
Oh, it's not so bad.
We'll be the judge of that.
Let's say like 14 feet.
Oh yeah, that's nothing. Yeah.
Nothing. It's just whatever. People do that stuff all the time. It's all good. It wasn't bad. It was a good adrenaline rush, but I did it because I thought it'd be a good spot, and I did it because a bit of revenge.
Motor racing drivers have that part of the brain that doesn't make them scared. Does that mean wrestlers have it as well?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Some of us do. Some of us still get scared, I think.
Were you scared at the top of that balcony then?
Nah, adrenaline was rushing too much.
Do you look back at it now and think,
What an idiot?
that was a really dumb thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. I look back on a few things in my career and think that, though, so...
Wow. You mentioned about how one of your big aims was to get involved with all the girls that were doing IWA Mid-South, and obviously by the time you started training, they'd all gone to SHIMMER. And you said that, obviously you did manage to get the SHIMMER, but it wasn't your first time of asking. You'd sent a demo into SHIMMER December 2006, which was, less than a year after you started training, and at the time, what Dave said to you that you weren't ready yet. Is that pretty much right?
Yeah, pretty well. He appreciated... I sent the tape knowing that would be the response pretty well. It was just he had an open invite for people to send stuff in, and I'm like, well, if I want to get there eventually, I should get my name known at least, and I would hate to watch that demo reel now. Like, I'm sure it's just awful and embarrassing, but at the time I thought it was okay. I think there was a match on there against... It was like a three-way with me, Veronika, and Ivory, and it was from, like, a Washington promotion, and the sound was off, and it was just so amateur. But I think I cut a promo in front of a wall in my basement. Like, oh god, I don't want to watch. I'm sure Prazak still has it somewhere.
I hope he does.
I hope he doesn't use his blackmail one day. Like, it was pretty bad, I think.
He's got so much blackmail footage of everybody. It's brilliant.
That's true. That makes me feel a little better.
Yeah, you're far from the only one. But then whenever you finally did get the call up to SHIMMER, so to speak, was that like a last minute thing?
Oh yeah, I was like totally I think it was 3 weeks before the show was supposed to happen.
Tell us about that.
Really, it was awesome. Like,
no, but I mean, did he just call you and say, what you doing in 3 weeks' time?
Yeah, he emailed me, and he asked me if I wanted to do it, and I was like, yeah, obviously. And he just needed a partner for Portia, and he thought that we would go good together. And I'm assuming it's because we're both Canadian, we both look like we were 14 at the time. So I'm pretty sure he's like, oh, young-looking Canadians, put them together. And we were so... whatever maybe he saw something else, and he obviously saw more than I did because it worked out awesome. Like, we're a great tag team. Our chemistry is off the hook. We text each other every couple days. Like, we're good friends, and yeah, I don't know what he saw, but thank you, Prazak.
That was your second sort of bite of instant chemistry, because you said you had it with Veronika Vice, and didn't you have it with Portia as well?
Yeah, same thing. It was, I've been pretty lucky with the people I've met in wrestling, for sure. Me and Veronika, like, pretty much, like, best friends right away. Like, me and Portia instantly clicked, and, like, even our, like, not that I go back to watch our Volume 15 or 16 matches a lot, because it's just some little 16-year-old looking girl stumbling through a match. Me, not Portia. It's probably a little embarrassing, but like we had good chemistry right away, and we have very similar personalities. I remember I stayed at her house probably like a year after we met. I went over out east for a bit and stayed at her place, and her dad was like, you guys have like the exact same personality. I've never met someone so like her before. So we have really similar personalities, so we get along really, really well.
Where did the Canadian Ninja's name come from?
After our first show in SHIMMER, she came to BC for a show, I think March that year, or March the next year, rather. Mm-hmm. And we had a show in BC, a SuperGirl show, which, by the way, I hate the name SuperGirls. I think it's the dumbest name ever, and I'm trying to get... I think it makes us sound like reject superheroes. I hate it. I'm just putting that out there. Hate it. Our ECCW women's wrestling show. Let's put it that way.
Put it like that.
Yeah. We were filming a show, and so they flew in Portia, and we were just sitting around, and we just thought Canadian Ninjas for some reason. We're like, well, that's pretty funny. And then we're trying to think what it could stand for. We're trying to think of some acronyms or whatever. And we thought of National International Nation of Jalapeno Awesomeness. So, and it's really unfortunate because those tapes, they never got released because I don't know what happened. But that was the first Canadian Ninja promo where we introduced the name. And I'm like, oh, man, that'd be a cool thing to have because it was pretty funny. We made like a bulletin announcement. It was pretty good.
See, I had heard that Ninjas as well, standing for National International Junior All Stars. Is this just something that you come up with, like whatever different acronyms you can find, and just change it by the week?
No, Prazak came up with that one. He changed it. Apparently, Jalapeno Awesomeness isn't good enough for him. Whatever. But,
wow.
So, no, he's the one who thought of Junior All-Stars, which I guess makes more wrestling sense, but it's not as cool as Jalapeno Awesomeness.
Yeah. Well, that name didn't fly, but one of the other ideas that we understand that he had was the fact that he changed the name from Nikki to Nicole.
He did, because there's Nikki Rocks there already. Which, at first, when I came down there, he's like, well, we're going to have you be Nicole Matthews because we had Nikki, and he could have said, your name's going to be like Starlit Light, and I would be like, yeah, great, thanks, awesome. Like,
He would never be that mean.
I hope not. But I was just so stoked to be at Shimmer that I didn't really care what my name was. So Nicole Matthews, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll just use Nicole Matthews everywhere if I'm going to be Nicole Matthews in Shimmer. And actually, I really like it better. I think it sounds better. So it was a good change.
With regards to your tag team with Portia, she did an interview recently with DirtyDirtySheets.com, and they talked about your tag team, and she had a quote on here which I quite liked, and she said, being a successful tag team is like having a successful marriage. You need to communicate, you need to be willing to compromise, and you should always send flowers after you super kick your partner in the face.
Yeah, I have a bouquet at home right now because she super kicked me last Shimmer taping.
I mean, just talk a little bit more about what makes the what makes the duo work.
The thing, I think the reason why me and Portia flow so well together is because we both are just about being entertaining characters and being something you want to watch, and we're not worried about being a typical female wrestler. We don't really care too much about that or showing our femininity in the ring or whatnot. Like, we just are really strong characters, and you want to watch us. And we're we're hella good wrestlers too, which doesn't hurt.
If you do say so
cause.
yourself, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm saying it. And when I think now I have more personality than I used to, but before, you're not gonna shine personality wise next to Portia very often because her personality is so big and she's so awesome at that. And so before, I think I was more the wrestler and she was more the personality. But I think we've rubbed off on each other a little, and I think we're both a little more even with that now. Like, we both have a lot of personality, and we're both really good at wrestling. Not that she wasn't good at wrestling before, but I think we've become more even at that now.
But you've been careful not to duplicate each other as well, because you've both got distinct personalities.
Oh, yeah, I think so, too. I think we're just both very strong personalities, and it just goes together, because we're both, we both kind of have that cocky, bratty attitude in the ring, and we know we're better than everyone, and blah, blah, blah. We have that attitude, and we just kind of show it a little different, but, yeah, we both have basic characteristics that are similar, but we're unique at the same time, and we're unique in the ring. Like, you won't watch a Portia match and think it's a Nicole match, or vice versa.
I'm very aware of the person who I'm saying this to, and I know this is probably going to get my head bitten off, but is Portia the best female heel in wrestling? Yes,
she is. I don't mind admitting that. She is. And this is going to sound funny because we're the same age, but Portia's one of the people I've probably learned the most of about wrestling. Just the way she approaches it character-wise, and how she can have the crowd eating out of the palm of her hand like no one's business. She's the best female heel in wrestling. She's one of the best heels in wrestling.
Yeah, because wrestling-wise, you're probably right. But wrestling-wise, I think Stu pointed this out quite a while ago, is that when Portia wrestles when she's wrestling heel, she barely does sort of anything flashy. It stomps, kicks, punches, chokes, all that kind of stuff. It's just, it's awesome. It's just great. She barely does sort of anything dynamic, I guess.
It's funny because she's super old school in that regard, but she has her own style to her own flair. So it comes across as something you've never seen before, and like new school almost. But she's really old school how she approaches her character, if that makes sense.
Now, I mean, we both have loved watching the Ninjas and Shimmer and seeing the progression of that tag team, and obviously you guys were Shimmer tag team champions for a long time. I want to throw a quick left turn in here and mention the word Wrestalicious.
Don't laugh.
Always comes up on interviews.
I know. Wrestalicious is tremendous.
It's not tremendous. Anyway, I ask only, and I'll tell you why. I mean, obviously, for anybody who doesn't know, Portia and Nicole were on Wrestalicious. They were the tag team, not of the Canadian Ninjas, and not even of Portia Perez and Nicole Matthews. They were Faith and Hope, the Naughty Schoolgirls. Explain.
Okay. I'll say this. I've never gone paid so much money for a wrestling gig.
I knew that was the first.
Everyone says that, yes.
Oh my god, really? That's so funny. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page on that one.
The stock Wrestalicious response, every time we ask everyone about Wrestalicious, the stock response is, we had a lot of fun and we got paid really well.
That's true. It was a lot of fun because it was all like our friends just hanging out and just the ridiculousness of everything. It was... I'm glad I did it because it was so ridiculous to be part of it. But, you know, my pride took a bit of a hit doing it, obviously, because it was just so awful. But
it was funny because you were talking earlier on about how proud you were to be a serious wrestler and you didn't like the whole divas thing. And I just in the back of my mind was thinking, I can't wait until I ask you about Wrestalicious.
I can't even defend myself. Like, it was just so bad.
It was a good payday. That's all you have to say.
It was a great payday.
I can hear that you've sold out chance already.
Yeah, right. It was funny because they wanted the producer, director, I don't know, the whatever, the person who didn't know wrestling came up to us and they're like, so, we want you to be pretty flirty out there and blah, blah, blah. I mean, Portia are like, have you not seen us wrestle? Like, that's not going to happen. So we were basically Nicole Matthews and Portia Perez in schoolgirl outfits. That's pretty much what we did. We didn't change how we wrestled. We didn't change how we acted in the ring. We just happened to be in cheap Halloween schoolgirl outfits at the time.
And you had a third partner as well, a girl called, well, she was under the name of Charity, but... Who was this girl?
She was an actress, a local actress, who thought wrestling was real.
Did she? Did you tell her different?
Please say no.
No, we didn't. Like, we didn't want to break her heart. She was like 18. She was super young.
Aww.
I know. And she, we were asking her if she ever watched wrestling, and we were just making conversation, because she didn't know anyone there, right? And we're like, oh, do you watch WWE? And she's like, yeah. And we're like, oh, who's your favorite wrestler? She's like, John Cena. And we're like, okay, who do you hate? And she's like, Edge, because he's facing John Cena right now. He does awful things to him. And we're like, oh my god.
I wish we could be fans like that again.
Oh god. Not when you're
great when you watched it like that.
It was, but when you're trying to work with her in a wrestling context, it's a little tricky, because she thinks it's all real.
I have an idea. We need to get Charity on as a guest on a future edition of the podcast.
That would be fantastic.
We'll know exactly what's going on. We should probably do that.
The one question I have for you, though, is now that Wrestalicious has announced that they're doing a season 2, have you signed up yet?
Oh, God, no. I don't think they'll. No.
They won't when they hear this.
It's just like in the past, they always chalked me like via Portia. Apparently, she's a spokesperson for both of us, and I'm just like, yeah. And they're like, oh, well, when she want to do it again, and I'm just like, no, I'm sorry, no. No. It's just not gonna happen. I don't want to do it. Like, in my point of view, it's like, if I'm not willing to change who I am to make it to somewhere like WWE. Like, why would I do it for Wrestalicious? Like,
God bless
no.
you. That's all I'm gonna say. That's.
It's not even a pride thing. It's just it is a pride thing, but like it'd be good money, I suppose, but it's not worth it for me personally. I don't judge other girls who do it. Let me just put that out there.
No, absolutely. Going back to Shimmer then, and getting back to you know, a more serious type of wrestling that we can be be proud of. No, the serious business of wrestling. One of the things that's actually become, now this is going to sound horribly ass-kissing, I know, but one of the things that's become one of the highlights of the recent Shimmer tapings, and we've been to most of the recent ones over the last few years, is the big Nicole Matthews singles match of the weekend. And it seems that you always have like one, because you had a match with Melissa on Volume 27. You'd one with Yumi Kurihara on the last set. You'd one with Hamada on the set before that, and you'd one with Sarah Stock on the one before that. Is that? I mean, as far as those big matches are concerned, I mean, what one would you look back at if you had to and say this is the best of Nicole Matthews?
At the time, my Melissa match really, I think, changed things on how people saw me. Like, the volume before, or the tapings before, I wrestled Daisy, and I think that was the start of something really good. And then I think with the Melissa match, like, people were like, oh, it was a different side of Nicole Matthews, because I hadn't been that hard-hitting before, or whatnot. So I think that really changed things around for me, and, probably overall, my Hamada match, that was a huge moment. I let me tell you how nervous I was before that match. Oh my God, that was nerve-wracking, that match. I was incredibly nervous because I'm like, oh my God, Joshi Legend. Oh my God, I've never faced anyone who hasn't spoken English before. Oh my God, I'm going to screw everything up. And it was okay. It ended up being good. So. I didn't, I hope I wasn't just some dumb kid to her. I hope she thought it was okay too. But that's probably my favorite match of my bigger matches so far. I also really liked my Jessie McKay match from that same tapings, our volume 33, I think. Our second match together. Like, that was one of my favorite matches I've had too. And that was a different feel to it. Like, it was, me and Jessie are, obviously a little more even than me and Hamada are. Sure. We're kind of both up and coming and at the same time, and like we were both really proud of that match too. So I think those two matches pretty much define Nicole Matthews.
Well, you've got a series of matches against Jessie McKay, and the thing that some people have said about Shimmer is sometimes there aren't the programs of a series of matches between maybe two people or four people or whatever, but the two of you have been able to put together essentially a feud.
Yeah, it was pretty good, and I hope we can revisit it in the future, sort of thing, because I think we have really good chemistry with each other, and there's just a lot of things going for it. Like, we're around, we're both young, we're both around the same age, we both kind of look like we've been told we look pretty similar to each other, like, and we both kind of wrestle a hybrid style of wrestling, and maybe a little more hard hitting once in a while. So I think we have really good chemistry with each other, and I really enjoy working Jessie. She's really awesome, and I don't really understand why she hasn't gotten signed yet. But I don't know, maybe she hasn't pursued it enough. I'm not sure. But I don't see why someone like WWE wouldn't sign her. Well, like, she's awesome.
That's actually an interesting bit, because that was kind of, to a certain extent, what your feud was based on as well.
Yeah.
Because, you were cutting these promos on Jessie McKay talking about how she wanted to be a diva and she wanted to be smart, sexy, and powerful, and meanwhile you were being a serious professional wrestler. And I dug the idea, but in a certain way, given that I was at a Shimmer show, that made you the babyface to me.
Did it? Well, I what I was going for, I think in most of the time in Shimmer it would, but I think the thing that made it a little more heelish was the fact that Jessie obviously isn't a diva. Like, she's obviously an awesome wrestler.
She's obviously a serious wrestler as well, yeah.
Exactly. Like, she's had some awesome matches. That match she had against Madison Eagles, the main event, like, that was a really, really good match. and she's obviously a really good wrestler. So like maybe if I had done that against someone who's like uses their girliness as their full thing, like say I did it against Amber O'Neil or something like that, that would make me a babyface. But yeah, that's what I was trying to go with. And not gonna lie, pretty much used the exact same type of feud against Tenille back home when she was just leaving for WWE. But it actually meant a little more because she actually got signed. So that worked.
Yeah, she actually is off to go be smart, sexy, and powerful.
Exactly.
You were her last match, in fact,
yes,
before she headed off to Florida. Talk to us a little bit about Tenille.
She knew exactly what she wanted. She, flew or moved from Australia to Canada. Like, she made a lot of sacrifices, left a full life behind. She knew what she needed to do to get to WWE, and she went to Florida. She did really good in her tryout. She took all their advice, and yeah, she got a contract. Like, good for her. She did awesome.
And you look at that and you think, that I could possibly do that. That could be me.
Yeah, no, I don't think I couldn't do it. I just don't really want to at this point. Like, I don't really feel that, like, I don't want to be like, oh, what do I need to do image-wise to get into WWE? Okay, I need to go tanning more, or I need to get bigger boobs, or I need to dye my hair blonde. Like, it's just not really my thing right now. I don't really see myself doing that. I'm pretty selfish with wrestling. Like, I just want to be who I want to be. I think I do a pretty good job at what I do, and I want to continue that. I don't want to stifle who I am. I sound like such a pretentious, like, indie rock band right now.
No, I don't think it is because I don't think it is because if you're not happy being who you are.
Yeah,
in the ring, that's going to show to other people. It's going to make you look like you are pretending to be someone else, like you are pretending to be Hope.
Well, I didn't even pretend to be Hope. That's the thing.
A fair point.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, when I remember when I first turned face around here, I'm like, okay, maybe I should be a little more feminine in the ring, and I would try, and it just come off as awkward, and like I know if I try to act sexy, it'd come off really poorly. Because it's just not who I am as a wrestler. And, lucky for someone like Tenille, like, that is sort of who she is in the ring. So it's not like she had to change her personality to get into WWE. Like, she was that type of wrestler to begin with, so it worked out well for her. But, that's not who I am, and it's not who I am in real life either. Like, I'm just not I'm not a WWE girl right now. And if I try to fake it, it would come off really bad. Awkward. I'd probably look scared in the ring rather than sexy. Well,
we had Malaya Hosaka on the last show, and she talked a little bit about that as well, about people changing their looks and getting the the requisite surgery and so on to be WWE diva and so on. And she was basically saying that's if you can't look at yourself in the mirror afterwards and be proud of who you are as a person, then it's it's for the wrong reasons. And I suppose from that point of view, it's something to be proud of as far as you're concerned, that you're holding up to your principles.
Yeah, I agree with Malaya on that, and it's like it's just a personal thing, but like to change something that's perfectly fine to begin with, like, I don't know, cosmetic surgery just seems really vain to me, like, for me personally, and it's just not something I would really want to do to myself, and it's quite frankly, like, I'm fine with my boob size. I don't want them to be bigger, and I think. And it would affect my ring work negatively, I think. And plus, I'm not going to be wrestling forever. Girls' careers, when do they usually end? Like 30, 35, something like that,
Yeah.
And, when I don't want giant tits when I'm 40. And I have kids like, who are in elementary school or in high school or whatever. So, like, you kind of have to think about you have to think after wrestling sometimes. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of wrestlers don't think post-wrestling careers very often, and that's unfortunate.
In other words, don't expect Nicole Matthews on The Real Housewives of Vancouver.
No. No. I don't think so.
Speaking of TV shows, you mentioned it briefly earlier on, Lance Storm's World of Hurt. It's just started up in the Cave in Canada a few weeks ago. Most of the girls, or quite a few of the girls who sort of in your local indie scene up there, like Tenille, Casey Spinelli, Taya Valkyrie and all, they're all part of World of Hurt. Were you ever approached?
No, I was actually the only local girl who wasn't, and I was like, whoa, what's wrong with Nicole Matthews?
Yeah, what is wrong?
I don't get it. But they were starting in the process of doing things, like kind of getting the cast together. Last summer when I was there for their big PWA, that's like the local promotion there, they have like a big summer show a lot, and Kurt, the promoter, he'll bring the BC girls in a lot. Like, Kurt's really awesome. It's a really fun trip to do. And so me and Veronika, Tenille, and Casey all went to that. And they asked Veronika if she wanted to do it, and originally she was going to, but then she decided not to. And so Matthias Wilde, does that name ring a bell?
Yeah,
I forget his FCW name. Yeah, he recently got signed to FCW, actually after last tryout, I think. And he recommended Casey Spinelli. And, so she was invited to do it, and I guess they asked a couple of Calgary girls before. I'm like, what's wrong with Nicole Matthews? I think I'd make some pretty good entertaining TV. What do I know, though? Maybe I'm not a reality star. But,
wow.
So I wasn't asked, but it, I'm sure it wasn't a personal thing. I'm sure it was just coincidence.
Had they asked, would you have done it?
I think so. I think it'd be pretty fun. Yeah, and most of the people who did it, and a lot of the local people who would be asked to do it, are really cool dudes. So it'd be fun for a month or however long they taped for, to train with Lance Storm and to hang out with a couple of cool dudes, So, I probably would have done it. I think it would have been really fun.
Have you watched it so far?
I have. I haven't watched the last episode, which is Casey Spinelli's episode, which I'm actually going to go over to her house a little later on to watch with her.
Cool.
Yeah. And I've seen the first 3 episodes, and the first one was really funny, the Irena one. I actually don't know Irena personally much at all. I've only met her once. So, wow.
What do you think of that front bump?
Oh, my God. And she got signed. She got signed to WWE.
Yes. All right, tell us how you feel about that one.
That pisses me off, because she's awful. I'm sorry. It's just, I don't understand. Her boobs aren't big. That's
they will be.
The reason. Yeah, right. Good point. But, I don't get it. I don't get why she signed. I get why Tenille got signed. I don't get why this girl got signed, though. No idea. I have no idea why. But, yeah, I don't know her personally. From what I've heard, she's not the best person in the world, and, those are people whose opinions I really respect who have told me that. So, I think she's going to get eaten alive at FCW, and I think the stories are going to be pretty funny. So, that'll be fun to, that'll be fun to hear from some of the FCW people what happens on that one.
I like the sound of that.
That episode was hilarious, though, and I love how Casey Spinelli took it over pretty well by swearing at her. That was pretty good. It was pretty funny. I was entertained by that episode for sure.
If we had visuals on this podcast right now, we could have had the caption, Nicole Matthews fed up with Irena's bullshit.
Oh my God, the captions! They were the best part of the show.
Aren't they awesome?
So funny. Dylan Knight, sick of Irena's bullshit. I'm like, yes, yes. Yeah, no, I think the show's pretty funny.
French Stallion recently violated.
So
That's
funny.
Brilliant.
Recently violated. Oh, that French Stallion guy is hilarious, by the way.
We need more captions like that in TV shows.
I agree. I think we need more captions like that in wrestling. Can you imagine in a match in WWE, some botches or something, having I don't know, say it's The Miz versus John Cena, and The Miz botches, John Cena, sick of The Miz's bullshit. Sick of The Miz botching.
Just stick a massive watermark of the Cornette face up there, that will do it.
Exactly, that'd be really funny.
So, I mean, as far as the scene in BC now is concerned, I mean, you've been up there. Obviously, you live there, and we sort of talked about a bunch of the girls already. Who else is up there as far as talent for you to work with on a regular basis? Is there anyone else, or is that pretty much it?
Yeah, Tenille, unfortunately, we just had her last match, so that cut the division down quite a bit. It's like a typical indie fed. There's really not too much female talent, but we have good female talent, so that's all I really care about. There's Veronika still around here. We're both heels, though, so I don't really work with her too often. There's Casey Spinelli, who's improved, so much in the last 2 years. She started off pretty slow, but, she really picked it up, and she's done really well. And, she's hilarious. I really like Casey. I think she's funny. And I think why I think she's hilarious, was shown on that Irena episode of World of Hurt. Just just tearing this girl down verbally. That was funny. So Casey
shows up to a match 15 minutes before the match begins.
See, I don't know if I trust that. It's reality TV, right? So I don't know if they're, over-exaggerating or what.
I don't think Casey would have been that angry if she'd showed up 3 hours ahead of time and they just pretended.
That's true. Yeah, she was pretty angry. I'll have to ask her.
Well, she was there. You could ask her.
Yeah. I'll ask her what happened there. I'll get back to you guys. I'll give you all the inside scoop on what we've heard.
Thank you.
That's the way to get invited to that show. If they have a second season, I don't think Nicole Matthews is going to be on it now.
Oh, man.
Darn it. I wonder what my character would be, what they would say about me.
Oh, man, there's so many answers there.
I know.
Far too awesome for World of Hurt.
Do you feel a bit sort of cut off from the wrestling world over in that side of Canada?
Yeah, it's unfortunate how we're not too close to anything else. The good news is that we have a lot of good talent here, and it's unfortunate that not more people know about the talent here. Well, everyone knows about Kyle O'Reilly now, which is excellent. I trained with Kyle.
Uh-huh.
He was 6 months ahead of me, so I trained with him quite a bit. I actually stayed with him in St. Louis a year and a half ago when I was down there. So everyone knows about Kyle, which is good, but we have so much more talent here that no one knows about, and it's really unfortunate. And, yeah.
But what could World of Hurt then? Could World of Hurt be then almost an advertisement? It's almost like a half-hour long advertisement for wrestling on the west side of Canada.
Yeah, it could be. Those are all Calgary guys there now, though, who are like Lance Storm's former students pretty well.
Calgary and Vancouver are only about 20 minutes drive away.
It's 12 hours away, buddy. It's a journey. It's a journey to drive to Calgary, let me tell you.
Look at how big a country.
It's huge. Canada's huge. It's huge. It's so different even from the States. Major city to major city, they're so close together. I discovered when I was in Philly last year that New York's only 2 hours away, and I'm like, oh, awesome. Let's take a Greyhound bus there. But, Canada's a little further apart, unfortunately. But, no, I think it could be a really good tool to show the talent we have. And, I hope ECCW gets some DVDs out there soon, to sell on Smart Video or whatever.
They are sticking some stuff up now on YouTube, though, so if you want to check out some ECCW, you can check it out on YouTube. I know they got some stuff up there fairly regularly, I think.
Yeah.
Before we sort of conclude and sort of finish up with anything else you're up to, I just want to mention, because if we're talking about Canada, I'd like to get a little plug in there for Femmes Fatales over in Montreal. Different area, I guess, of Canada, but you've been there a couple of times, I think. What are your impressions of Femmes Fatales and what it can do for the women up in Canada?
I like Femmes Fatales a lot. I think it's a really cool promotion. It's good that they mix, the typical female indie stars like Melissa, Mercedes, and Portia, etc. And they mix it with the local Quebec girls there. I think that's awesome for the Quebec girls. It gives them a lot of exposure as well, and the fans are like, oh yeah, our local girls can totally go. So I think it's a really good idea. I enjoy working there. I enjoy, the promotion and the promoter and all that, yeah, they do a really good job, and they treat their talent really well. So definitely support Femmes Fatales. Go buy their DVDs.
Yes, do. There's a review of that on the website as well, so check it out.
Enough of your shilling, Burton.
Sorry.
Actually, before we... Actually, speaking of DVDs, I remember I got some of the DVDs back in the day, and that was the old SuperGirls DVDs from, I don't know, a few years ago now.
With, like, Nattie and, like, Rebecca Knox.
And all that sort of
stuff.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. That was actually a couple months before I started training, those DVDs.
There you go. Would ECCW ever look at doing something like that again and doing all women shows under that banner again? Or maybe not that name, but, you know.
Hopefully not. There's definitely been some talks, and, like, hopefully they kind of get on it. I think right now is the best time to do it. Like, female wrestling in the indie scene is pretty popular right now. So they should definitely capitalize on the success of places like SHIMMER and WSU and Femmes Fatales. So I'm really hoping, I'm really pushing for it. And I again, with the Quebec thing too, I think it'd be a good opportunity for local girls here, like Casey Spinelli or Taya Valkyrie or Veronika or whoever, to get some exposure. So I'm really hoping they do it. And, I'll definitely keep you updated on that. It's, it'll come. I just hope it's soon. I don't really know what the plans are. There were plans for it, but then other things came up, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah. I hope it'll happen eventually. It'll be good.
Excellent. Yeah, and absolutely. Keep us up to date with that. We'll happily help get the word out of anything like that. As far as getting the word out, before we close, I mean, what have you got coming up that you want to plug as far as upcoming matches or shows or anything like you got coming up?
June 4th in Vancouver, we have a Pacific Cup tournament, which is in ECCW, which is our biggest show of the year, and definitely the best wrestling of the year. Everyone puts their best foot forward, and I will be wrestling in that, actually, against Billy Swade, who is a Lance Storm student and is brilliant. Brilliant Billy Swade, that's his name. So that'll be a really good match. I'm really looking forward to that. And there's other people in the tournament, like last year's Pacific Cup winner, Artemis Spencer. Kyle O'Reilly will be there, coming back to the home turf for a bit. The best junior heavyweights in the company, plus a girl. And it'll be really, really good tournament. If you look for good wrestling in the indie scene, definitely buy it when it comes out on DVD. It's always our best show of the year. And it's just really good wrestling, and then you can see what BC Talent's all about, and it's pretty awesome.
There you go. What a way to end.
Thank you. Shill.
Nicole, thank you very much for your time this evening, spending as much time with us talking